We're really getting into the thick of it now as we're heading into the second last series of the regular season between, of course, the Atlanta Reign and the San Francisco Shock. And this is bound to be one that actually has a lot on the line here, because the Atlanta Reign are going to be playing for, honestly, seeding at the end of the day. Of course, the San Francisco Shock, we know that they're going to be locked up in that number 2 spot. But the Reign, after kind of just losing out on that opportunity to grab the 5th seed, are going to be looking for any opportunity not to slink down any lower in this standings.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? Even though they are stuck into this tier 2 kind of position, as you can see in the standings, where they're going to be in that defined area, they are fighting for whether they get first or second pick of their opponent. That's what's most important here. And that could make a big difference at the end of the day. That's going to define how the bracket ends up looking for our overall playoffs. And even if they lose this match here against the Shock, it is possible that they'll still retain their number 6 seeding, but they need to win here if they want it to be in their own hands. They don't want to have to wait for the very last game of the regular season, where you have the battle for LA and it'd be super competitive to define whether or not you are the 6th or 7th seed in North America. You want that destiny to be in your own hands. And that is going to be really difficult though, Brent, because they're going up against the San Francisco Shock. That's not something, they've been a team all season long that we've criticized for not actually being able to pull out wins against these top teams, but they actually have been able to set up certain speed runs today. So even if they're not able to get the victory, perhaps they can set some kind of record. They'd love to be on the winning side of this. But anyway, they could make their place in the history books on the other side. That's where the Titans and the Defiant are, and they're still on here.
Yeah, you can see both of these teams that are playing here today. Shock have been setting many speedruns. They're currently holding the record for the fastest game in Overwatch League history. But the Reign are also in there, the 9th and 10th spot against the Titans and Defiant. This is something that the Atlanta Reign have always been known for. This kind of team that just dominates teams that are weaker than them, but they tend to struggle against the topper team, the best teams. And I mean, can you think of a better team to play against? I mean, the San Francisco Shock are up there in terms of where you want to place them. There's an argument that you could make, I suppose, for the Philadelphia Fusion being better than the Shock, just based on the standings, but I feel like the entire season long, the Shock have been almost just undisputed when it comes to just their prowess in the North American region.
They've certainly been at the top of that level. The tournament standings and stuff like that would suggest that they've been the team to beat over here in North America. They have been beaten. They're at number 2, but Ants is certainly a player that's been putting out incredible production for them over on anything that requires long-range hit scan, but also has played some Sombra and a little bit of Tracer so far this season for them as well. Ants is a scary, scary player, and you can see he's starting here, and he's in the starting lineup alongside Violet and Moth, so they're going for that Lucio kind of look to start out. And my question really for Atlanta is, if you want to come out with the victory here today and make sure that you can pick your opponent first, who deals with Ants? Because you don't have Baby Bay anymore. They're starting with Edison and Saucy, and we've seen Edison grow into this role as the hit scan player for his team. He hasn't always been a long-range hit scan player primarily. He's always played some Widowmaker and played some Hanzo, but that's not been his speciality. He hasn't worked on it every single game in the same way that somebody like Baby Bay had for the Atlanta Reign. So I think there's a lot of pressure here on Edison to step up and really show what he's capable of.
Absolutely, yeah. We do have quite high expectations, I think, of Edison as well as a player coming into this season of the Overwatch League in particular. We want to really see him come online. He is a great player. Absolutely. We're going to be going into Busan as the first map, so plenty of opportunities to see what the Atlanta Reign can flex upon the San Francisco Shock. You can see Ans just smiling away there, getting a good stretch in before the game. Stretching, staying hydrated, very important aspects of gaming and just general activities that a lot of people kind of neglect.
Rascal giving a stretch as well. I was going to say the Shock look excited to come out and play this, and then Rascal gave me a stretch that looked like he was sleepy. So, I don't know. There's somewhere between excited and sleepy. Hard to tell. But the Atlanta Reign look very focused. They still have something very real to play for here. It would be an insane upset if the Atlanta Reign were able to come out with a victory. But the Shock have not looked immortal this season. They've looked great. They've looked dominant, but they haven't been immortal. They've still been touchable for these middle-of-the-pack teams that are trying to reach the top, like at the Atlanta Reign. So it's feasible. Unlikely, but feasible that Atlanta could come out with a surprise upset result here.
We'll see if they're capable. Smurf was teasing the Roadhog a little bit, and I'm like, well, not on the playoff patch yet. The Roadhog has been buffed up to some older levels, and it is just going to be this typical composition that's being played by almost every team these days. The dive with the Sombra. Teams will roll out. An's looking for a headshot or two. He's found the angle onto one player. He's just seeing if Edison will poke his head out. We can get a quick and easy one, but not going to be happening here. Troy Yobin instantly demexed. Great dive from the Atlanta Reign, able to capitalize on that one. Now they're going to try and focus on this front line. The approach, big Bionade onto Violet, and he will fall. A bit of stray fire coming out. Instant resurrect, but too little too late. Smurf went down as well, which means the Atlanta Reign probably going to be able to get some capture progress now on this point.
Much earlier positioning coming out from Atlanta, but Ans with a beautifully replied headshot there onto Edison. That's going to create a bit of space, but Ans was getting dangerously far ahead of the rest of his team there. You don't want to be frontlining on the Ash. Nevertheless, he's going to be back in and immediately picks off Massa too. Ans put it in production early on.
Now, the good news is for the Atlanta Reign is that so much damage has been chunked into them that Dogman has built up the nano boost already. But the trouble is, Ans, when he's on this high ground, it's brutal to play against. I mean, he's 10% away from the bomb, but still, Pokpo with the nano boost now. You can see that was the win condition. But in the Primal Rage here, when they've already got 2 picks, probably don't feel too confident in their ability to win this, given the fact that Smurf was causing all sorts of action in the back line, getting 2 kills for his team, but it will confirm the team fight win, at least for the Atlanta Reign.
Yeah, good play by them. It's nice to see Pokpo in the lineup as well. Obviously, more of the Winston player compared to Gator, but Pokpo hasn't played too much this season. We saw him recently, of course, playing against the Gladiators, but since then he's only come into the lineup a couple of times in the past number of weeks. San Francisco, though, huge amount of ults.
Interesting here that Violet is playing the Ana here for the San Francisco Shock. Typically, they've put in Twilight for that role itself, but Sleep Dive onto Smurf. The nano boost is negated, but that's okay. Choi in the off angle, along with Ans, 2 quick headshots. That's magic right there. And with a player like Ans, you get what you're paid for. A real superstar hit scan player. The Resurrect onto Pokpo will keep them into this fight, but for how much longer when Ans is hitting these little quick scope shots? Yep.
Looking like the Call of Duty League out here. Hitting quick scopes on people, left, right, and center. And Sniper. Gonna join Fate.
Maybe. Yeah, so the Atlanta Reign, though, with 93% on their point, that's a fantastic opportunity for them now, because they are 1 team fight away from taking this first round away from the San Francisco Shock.
Oh, I mean, those shots are just filthy coming out from Ans.
Yep.
His Ash has not been as good as his Widowmaker so far this season, but it's still really, really strong. And he can sometimes just turn a fight around with those kind of shots. All right, hack into the back lines.
Yep, Saucy going to be connecting onto a couple of targets here. This needs to be a win for the San Francisco Shock, because if they end up losing this team fight, that is going to be the round. But it seems like the Atlanta Reign are struggling to focus down their targets. They don't quite know who to be directing a lot of the focus onto. Rascal going to be going back a little bit here, and they're still in control. Dive into the back line, the EMP, everything, the hack I should say, not coming through from Saucy, but Rascal will go down, and he was 90% to the EMP. Still trades now, and the San Francisco Shock in control of the point once again. Smurf at the tail end of that Primal Rage does get the kill there onto Dogman, but the instant resurrect to try and keep them back into this fight. This is precarious right now for the San Francisco Shock. 1 slip up, and they're just about creeping off the edge. EMP still committed. Rascal wants to try and take this fight, but they're struggling to get the kill. The bubble came out a little bit later. It didn't connect onto Pokpo, and they've turned this fight around. Still in control of the point. Moments away now. Smurf has to touch the point with his body. Hands with the damage boost from afar, might be able to get something done, but Edison sends out Bob, and that's going to be cleaning up a lot of the work in the back line, as Violet will go down. Very winnable scenario right here, Josh, for the Atlanta Reign.
Almost unlosable, actually. Saucy with the EMP, they get the kills, they finish people off. Atlanta looking like the better team on round 1. The San Francisco Shock not really that coordinated with how they were sending in Smurf and Rascal. Ans hit some beautiful shots, don't get me wrong, but just the tank line for the Shock and the way that Violet was playing alongside them, not quite as coordinated, and that's actually why I thought they would be tending more towards Lucio compositions, running Violet and Moth, because an Ana Mercy backline, Violet Moth doesn't really scream that to me. I mean, Violet has basically not played any Ana for the San Francisco Shock this entire season long. They had Architect playing that hero at the beginning because they weren't comfortable fielding Violet on the Ana. And then Twilight obviously took over that role. So now as the Shock move over to kind of double flex support backline that's more to do with poke and a double shield front line, we'll see if the style of the Shock changes significantly. It certainly should.
It should be something that they are quite comfortable with, playing this kind of double shield, but we'll find out now. As you can see, the team is just vying for control of this center podium. Super important. Edison getting pressured in the backline, but his team is there to peel for him, and these shots need to be hit. So important to see the Widowmaker players pop off in these moments. And you can see Edison not too keen to take the direct confrontation against Ans, but it matters not, as it seems like the San Francisco Shock have a huge damage advantage, just rolling over them onto the point. Ans winning the Widowmaker 1v1 at the back end of it as well. Quick capture for the San Francisco Shock here early on, and they're going to be able to create a little bit of a foothold, a foundation to build upon this round.
Ans winning the Widowmaker head-to-head here. Let's take a look at the replay of Rascal and what he was able to do within the backlines. Just finishes off Poco, putting in a lot of consistent damage. Not really playing for hacks, just playing for damage behind the shields. Playing it a little more like a Tracer might, for example, but also building up that absolutely crucial EMP, of which he is about 15% away at the moment.
Ans at the off angle here. You can see the way Atlanta Reign are playing. They do not want to give anything up. Giving him a lot of respect here. Smurf goes down. Big pressure, big damage being pumped into him with the Discord Orb. But Ans finds Edison, and that is going to mean that Ans has a lot more space to work with now. Doesn't need to worry about much. Dogman wants to try and take the fight to him, but Saucy goes down. And now Hawk's so low there. The Gravitic Flux almost ending his life, and finally Choi Hyobin will finish the job there. The Amp Matrix just helping, assisting with that one. The San Francisco Shock still in control at this point. The Atlanta Reign forced to regroup, rethink how they're going to be approaching this one.
Poor Ans, whenever we watch him, he's missing shots, but you can see in the kill feed that he must be hitting a bunch of them because he found two really important picks in the middle of that team fight too. He's definitely getting the better end over Edison, and he's got his info sight up already as well. That's going to make it pretty difficult for the Atlanta Reign to push in. Their Sombra can't be invisible, their Widowmaker can't take the angles, and a lot of spam damage coming onto them whenever they push. Oh, Pokpo. He's so weak. Pokpo's actually split from all the rest of his team as well here. I'm super confused actually as to what the Atlanta Reign are doing there.
The Supercharger goes down instantly as he tried to use it to initiate in, and he's so low. The Discord Orb's still on him. He will survive. His team have regrouped with him, but not before the Shock have decided to go for a bit of a pincer mover. As you can see, they're rotating around. Gravitic Flux comes through. Great accretion from Choi. Cancelling the Gravitic Flux. Not going to be happening, but the Atlanta Reign still finding the pickoffs necessary. Ans going down. Edison with 2 for him. Choi Hyobin, the last one standing on this point, eventually will fall. Rascal coming in right at the end, but he too will go down, and that means that the Atlanta Reign critically win that team fight.
Yeah, a big mistake in positioning, I think, at the beginning of that team fight. There seemed to be some communication issues there for Atlanta, but it wasn't really punished from the Shock. Ans had many opportunities to take those shots, but it wasn't quite able to get the picks when the opportunity was presented to him. Obviously, even though Ans is insanely good on the Widowmaker, he doesn't hit everything. That would be truly absurd.
Oh my goodness. Violet going for these ego duels against Edison off at the side. It's so ballsy, but he almost gets away with it still. The EMP coming through from Atlanta Reign means that Ans was just stuck against the wall once again, and now you're going to see a lot being utilized here. EMP clears the Amp Matrix, and now the Shock are just rolling over them once again. Hawk and Dogman going down, and that's no Transcendence. Dogman getting caught out from the hack. Couldn't use it. Still Pokpo alive. Fortify to cancel up that Gravitic Flux. It will not be affecting him, but it matters not to Choi Hyobin, because when he's in the sky, he's able to just put in that consistent damage, and he's going to get the 4K just to close out this round, evening it up.
Yeah, the EMP just wasn't quite there in terms of the coordination from Saucy and the Atlanta Reign. Saucy popped the EMP, caught a couple of people, but the rest of his team was miles away, so they were only able to convert on a kill onto Ans. And with Ans dead, sure, you're not going to have to worry about a Widowmaker getting picks on you, but the rest of the Shock can definitely still kill you. They don't actually rely on that Widowmaker for damage at any point during their neutral fights. So as soon as Shock saw an opportunity, they pop the Transcendence, which allows them to run in, pop the EMP, which obviously gives them a massive advantage in that fight, and they come out with a victory. What a difference from round 1 to round 2 in terms of the Shock's performance, though, in terms of their coordination. And now we see Moth on the Lucio, so Shock going for a bit more of a brawly rush kind of double shield composition with Answered Rascal on the McCree and the Junkrat. This is some new wave stuff.
It's so close quarters as well when you're running the McCree and the Junkrat just to pump in that damage. I said it the other day, but you're just emitting this aura of death. If you come within their radius of the San Francisco Shock's death ball here, you're probably going to be in trouble. But the Atlanta Reign are trying to build up this nano boost as fast as possible. Big Bionade onto Violet forces out the Immortality field, but an off angle now being taken by Hans. He's hunting for targets. Gets 1 or 2. Now he has noticed that, yep, Dogman out of position. What a flick. Quick little shot.
People, by the way, still talk about Ants as if he's a Widowmaker 1 trick, and he absolutely isn't. They forget that his McCree earlier on in the season was putting Striker on the bench. You've got to be insane in terms of your raw aim to put Striker on the bench, and he doesn't overextend. He doesn't make too many positioning mistakes like you might expect of a rookie. He is just nutty when it comes to these hit scan picks. He's impressed me so much with the range of heroes that he's been able to play, and it continues here. All right, that was a bit of an overextension. The whole of his team was with it, and he just wandered slightly out of his immortality field range.
Yeah, he was just trying to, well, I think they may have just bursted that one down, or he walked out of the line of sight of it. Either way, Hans will go down, and but the Shock still want to fight. The Amp Matrix to try and force them back. Popo gets hacked up, which means he can't leap out. Falling down to 300 health, has to go back to the safety of his team, and he's going to get healed up, but that's an Nana boost committed as well. The Shock may choose to recontest this one with the Supercharger, and they do. Straight away, the shield comes through as well, and Hans, when he's got that provided, what is he doing in the backline? It doesn't even matter! Both the supports are down by the Atlanta Reign. And even if Edison hits these shots, I mean, how is he going to be able to turn that one? Flanking McCree gameplay, a man after my own heart.
Yeah, the flank of the McCree at the same time as Smurf put down a Supercharger as well. You don't expect the McCree to not be playing with the Supercharger. When you have that kind of damage advantage, why would the McCree be flanking? Well, it totally caught the Atlanta Reign off guard, so a really smart decision here. Saucy has to disengage EMP onto all of the rest of his team. No follow-up, really? And we'll see whether they can peel apart the Saucy EMP. Doesn't look good for them.
Yep. Hans got caught out of position there, and a big Bionade onto Smurf meant that he was easy pickings. Troy, not hacked up actually. Oh, is he? Yeah, no, he's not hacked up whatsoever. A bit hard to read on the clean slate UI, but you can see that the Atlanta Reign are getting the best out of this situation now with the recap. Not able to get that. What a shield placement from Smurf to block that actually. Yeah, that's fantastic there to save Rascal's life when he got slept up.
That might seem like a small thing, but that allows them to push maybe 10 seconds earlier than they otherwise would have been able to. Look at Choyobin as well, over on the flank there. As the Sigma, just going to be able to do so much consistent damage in from behind. Oh, worried about getting hacked.
Oh, he's trying to break the line of sight of the hack with his shield. Oh, he was so close to doing that, but a risky situation to be in, and the risk does not pay off. Huge Bionade again from Dogman means that Moth was not able to get healed up there and gets caught out of position. The Atlanta Reign holding on as well with the res onto Edison. Not going to be holding with a disadvantage with any players.
EMP could be huge here for Atlanta. It could be the momentum changer that they need to take them into an even kind of situation. Great EMP, Bionade as well, catches onto Smurf. They need to finish somebody though. They need to kill Violet or Moth. Now they've waited too long and the
focus fire. The focus fire is not there. Edison's getting pocketed in the corner. He's trying to take this 1v1. Bob getting committed. Violet trying to get that kill. He wasn't able to do it. And the Shocker just jumping into the backline, feeding relentlessly.
They've been able to do it though. They've come out with the victory in that team fight, thankfully. And that was looking dangerous there for the Atlanta Reign, because the follow-up wasn't there on the EMP. They still had to commit a bunch of other ultimates on top of that. The Bob, the Primal Rage, I think a Self-Destruct maybe got committed there as well. I'm not sure, maybe the previous fight, but it seemed like a heavy commitment. And now the Shock have all the pieces necessary, if they can touch the point, to be able to get back into this one.
Yep, Smurf lays down the Supercharger. This is it now. Has to be here when a Shock make their stand. EMP connects onto 3 players and already brought down Pokpo. Can they deny? The Resurrect coming through. Massa does manage to get it off though, but the D-Mech is already on to Hawk. And Massa falls suit. looking like a disaster right now for the Atlanta Reign. Not able to really even start to put pressure onto this point. Pogpo, one man standing. Will it be enough with the Immortality Field? Cannot burst through the backline of the Shock, and the Shock with a beautiful recontest. Using the ultimates in the right order, the Atlanta Reign unable to hold up for the aggression that the Shock were putting out. And with that final D-Mech and D-Suit, it will mean that the San Francisco Shock are going to be walking away with map number 1, but my goodness, Josh, how close was that series, or that map?
Yeah, very close, actually. The Atlanta Reign were able to come away with a very strong showing in round 1. I'm not going to say it was dominant in round 1, but they definitely looked like a better team. The Shock certainly looked like the better team across round 2 and 3. They were pretty easily able to win in round 2. And in round 3, both teams had very different styles, so it was a little more back and forth. Obviously, Pogpo playing more of the Winston kind of stuff. I think this series is going to be very interesting, actually, because, all right, the Shock don't have anything to play for in terms of their seeding, but the Shock are the kind of team that actually want to rack up wins. They like to be this dominant team that inspires fear in their opponents. They're not going to take their foot off the gas, especially after just having lost to the Philadelphia Fusion. They have something, I think, to prove. And the Atlanta Reign definitely want this win in order to get a better pick.
Absolutely, yeah. The Atlanta Reign just playing for more than just pride at this point. They need that seeding, and this would put it into their own hands as well to a degree. So we're going to find out, though, if they can bring it back at the other end of this break. Don't go anywhere, guys. It's going to be a short one, and when we come back, the series will continue.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
The Atlanta Reign, so many moments of brilliance thus far in this series, but can they take it the extra mile? Can they do the impossible, Josh, and take the win, or take a couple of maps at least, from the San Francisco Shock? Well, so far, map 1 was looking very close back and forth, a real clash of styles across the board. So the Atlanta Reign seem to be feeling themselves, but they got to keep it going.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a couple of subs here as well, as Gator comes in for Pogpo, and I think that indicates, obviously, as we move on to Havana, that we're going to be seeing more of a double shield kind of style, probably coming out from both teams as well, because when you look over at what the San Francisco Shock were doing, I feel like we still don't really know how comfortable they are playing these Ana Mercy kind of compositions. We've seen that be the meta recently. We saw the San Francisco Shock be outplayed fairly comprehensively against the Philadelphia Fusion in this hero pool, in this meta that we've got going on at the moment. And with Violet starting out in our first round as the Ana, I actually just want to see the Shock play that comp more, to see whether they can play it at an elite level. Not so much because I think that's going to be the playoff meta. I don't think it's going to be anything similar to the playoff meta, but because seeing more flexibility coming out from their support line, seeing Violet being capable of playing the Ana, for instance, and seeing the team be able to function within that kind of style at a truly elite level is maybe like the one thing that we haven't seen so far from the Shock. The times when they've looked their worst have been recently, where that has been the case. They looked like they didn't have a good grasp of the meta there, and that opening round against Atlanta wasn't particularly promising, although the sample size was incredibly small as well.
Yeah, it's been a big question mark, hasn't it? Always that the Violet Ana, I suppose, coming through. We know he's got a good Zenyatta on him, but previously, I mean, the San Francisco Shock even opted to play Architect on the Ana instead of Violet. That's how much they kind of want to delve away from it. Still, the Atlanta Reign going for this classic strategy. They did this the other day. They love to play this kind of rush brawl comp right at the gates. Now the Shock should know this because, well, they should have watched the series that actually took place. Should have a good answer for it. We'll see if they're able to take a kill or two. Look at Gator just smushing his face against the spawn board. Smurf,
Ants should be able to flank here though. Ants should be free to flank and just get pot shots from behind. I have no idea where he's positioned at the moment. He is, yeah, he's on a wide flank. So if Ants has the ability to hit these shots, oh, what a shadow.
Yep, that's the early Earth Shadow getting built up there from all of that damage that Gator's able to push through this choke point. Falling very, very low though. It's the trouble. You can take a lot of damage without realizing it. Ants falls though in the Coalescence. Gator trying to keep him up, but Gator. Okay, he goes down. Was that a charge attempt from him?
Yeah, he charged into an Ant Matrix because I think he just assumed he was going to die anyway because his shield was really weak. But I think he could have played line of sight there a little more effectively. I mean, it's a composition designed to just hold the front gates, hold the spawn for as long as you can. You're not intended to win the map based off of it. But that was a bit weird there.
Well, I'll tell you, Josh, the other day, the Atlanta Reign stayed on this comp for the entirety of it. Even after this first point hold last time.
Yes.
And this was one of my biggest criticisms of the Atlanta Reign when they were playing this composition, is that they were so stuck in their ways. But the trouble is, it doesn't do too well when you lose that initial one. What a shot. He is just an absolute freak of nature, isn't he? My God.
Yeah.
That raw aim is unbelievable. The supercharger from Smurf will be laid down onto the car, but he's actually split off a little bit here by the shield. His team are behind it, and that means the supercharger will go down easily enough. Ants get out of position. Gravitic Flux, though, sends a couple flying, a couple back down again. Gator with the next one to die. Violet using that Transcendence, keeping his team up. Smurf walled away. Fortify just comes up, but too late as he will go down. And the Immortality Field on top of the Blizzard here. It's a scrappy fight, but it seems like the Atlanta Reign are the ones who are coming out on top.
That Symmetra barrier was a game changer, I think. Dogman getting into the backlines. You've got to be worried!
What?
You can't disrespect Ants like that. And now Atlanta Reign are down their main healer. And Smurf's going to get a much faster spawn. Dogman swaps over to the Batiste, so it's not too bad, I suppose. Of course, intentional. Of course.
Of course, yes, yeah.
But,
yeah, that Symmetra barrier just splitting off the line of sight of the supercharger.
Yes, and also making it so that Gator could play really aggressive in the front lines, even though Hawk was having to pressure Ants. So it just provided Gator all of this safe space to play.
Ants getting pressured in behind, and he's not being helped as well. The teleporter into the backline meant that they can just run him down But look at this, the cards just slowly move. Are they really going to win this with 3 on the card? Gator forced the charge in because they were about to win the game, or win this first checkpoint, I should say, taking it away from them. Another barrier built up, the Shock so close. Probably felt like they could bait Ans a little bit. Oh, I don't like that Transcendence from Violet. Right down the middle of the Symmetra shield means that half this healing is probably going to be blocked up. But Ans is back in the fight, and he does get a kill. He gets a second one. The supports are down. It's always winnable when Ans is on the field. Another headshot. You got to be joking. This guy, and what are you doing, Edison? You know the infra sight's up, but he just waddles into the line of sight.
That's a spectacular individual performance from Ans. That's the thing about the San Francisco Shock as well. Even if you manage to beat them in terms of you have better team play than them, you use your ultimates better, the Shock's individual players sometimes can just clutch it as well. The Atlanta Reign didn't really do too much wrong there. Maybe Dogman and Massa was slightly off some of their shields. We don't know because we didn't really see it on the screen. But Ants just hit the shots, man. There's nothing you can do when the guy's playing at this kind of level. The composition, it's very hard for them to shut down the Widowmaker. That's a lot of what Hawk is doing in these team fights. But Ants, he just continues to deliver.
I mean, how is he getting value here? How is he getting value in this particular section of Havana, nevertheless? It is so close quarters, so many narrow, like, just U-bends here. You can see it's so hard to get the proper sight lines as a Widowmaker player, but he just makes it work anyway, and he opens it up for his team.
He does,
Absolutely absurd.
It's absurd the areas that he's able to get value from. Rascal over here on the Echo as well, one of our first adopters of that hero when it was released in 2020. He looked very good on it early on, and he continues to look pretty impressive as well. He's got a duplicate available. Could go for a Reinhardt. I would love to see a Rascal Shadow coming up soon.
Yeah, Supercharger means that the Atlanta Reign can't really play into this line of sight. They try and go for Ans again. Supercharger, or I should say Self-Destruct laid down. It's going to be the duplicate here onto the Reaper. I respect it, you know, it's a reasonable pick against the composition. They're running, and there you go. Unleashing the Death Blossom. And the Hellfire shotguns, you know, they might be made out of pixels, but they still do the appropriate amount of damage. And as they try and jump on the Violet, taking these off angles, they will find that they're just going to be meeting the end of his boot.
Yeah, really nice play there. Synced up with the Halt as well, of course, to just add the massive amounts of damage possible from that Death Blossom that Rascal generated in about 3 seconds because of the duplicate. And Atlanta Reign, they've been playing this composition all right, honestly. They haven't been playing too badly, but they're getting outplayed in terms of the individuals. They can't really shut down Ants too well. There's only Hawk, sorry, that can really do it. And he's working overtime because Ants, he's just hitting all these ridiculous shots. Not only do you have to outplay the San Francisco Shock, just in terms of a team, you have to also make sure that they can't clutch it out.
Edison going for the teleport, the nothing personal kid move. It works sometimes, but not when the team is completely on point. And now the Shock, yeah, they don't have much in the time bank to work with, but the way they're rolling this cart forward, and now that Ans has been given this line of sight, you can see the shield there to support him. This is such a difficult position to push out of. Yeah.
It really is. And this is where the Atlanta Reign's composition should thrive. This archway, this choke point that they're coming up to right now is one of the best areas to run a Reinhardt Diva, May Reaper kind of composition. But they have to be so careful not to go into Ans's sightline.
Saucy. Okay. Gets the kill there onto Rascal. That's going to set things up nicely there for the hold. And, yeah, the freeze up onto Troy Hoban catches him out of position, so it's going to be putting an end to that. Supercharger, they want to convince this.
Transcendence.
Edison's got a Death Blossom in the backline. I don't even know if they're aware of this. Blizzard and Coalescence, though, going to be forced out here from the Atlanta Reign. Shadow does not connect. Gator, okay.
Why are they going so far forwards, though, Brent? They're just getting baited in. And this is the problem. It wasn't a good idea, in my opinion, for the Shock to commit those ultimates. But because the Atlanta Reign smelled blood in the water, they charged forwards. And now they've overextended and they've thrown their own lives away. They were baited in, and the Shock with 30 seconds left.
Oh, the Gravitic Flux.
They need.
Gravitic Flux in close quarters will be healing them up. The accretion as well. Samaya has to come through now. Has to be big, but Rascal duplicating over to the Diva. Doesn't build up the self-destruct, but he builds up his mech quick enough, but soon taken out of it. Edison forced to use that Death Blossom just to peel away the backline, but the team is getting beamed as Rascal makes his mark. 10 seconds remaining in the time bank, but it's more than enough for them to get that full completion on Havana. with 5 seconds remaining.
Oh, and what a brutal error by Atlanta Reign to overextend so much after the San Francisco Shock had used their supercharger and their transcendence. There was clearly an advantage in the team fight for Atlanta, but you still have to play the map. And pushing that deep, even if you're 6v5, on such an open area of Havana is always going to get punished by a double shield kind of team. There's just way too much poke for you to deal with. And you saw Gator had to go for some Hail Mary shatter around the pillar, which if it had hit, I'm not even sure they would have been able to capitalize on anyway, because that would have
I mean, everyone was too
that would have
spread.
meant they'd have to go even deeper. Yeah. So a very unfortunate and a little disappointing end to the Havana defense from the Atlanta Reign. They got value out of the Reinhardt Rush composition. It's an interesting look. Havana at the moment is one of the maps where you see the most diverse strategies. We've got the Gladiators running double sniper kind of comps. Shock running some Echo over here with their double shield. Some teams still trying to run the dive as well. And Atlanta with Rush.
All sorts of different scenes and different looks that these teams are operating with. The difficulty is, though, now, the San Francisco Shock playing a composition that they are very comfortable with, and this sight line that Ants can just make his own. It's going to be very hard, I think, for the Atlanta Reign. They can definitely work in this right building that we see on our screens and avoid a lot of the sniper line of sight. But it's a hard ask, because they still need to push this payload, and look at that headshot. Hawk almost just getting his noggin taken off.
Another one.
Yeah.
In the
so
wise words
clean,
of
so consistent.
one of the musical greats.
Of course. DJ Khaled, who could forget? The Shock. Now Ans, you can see, working his way into the left side flank, but
nice
Edson is the one who gets the first kill. Yeah, that's a beautiful one onto Rascal, and it's setting his team up for success here. Ans just playing quite passive, quite patient. He realizes he doesn't really want to take the ego duel when Rascal's not there. Oof, does take a little quick shot here, but the Shock are being steadily pushed back and back and back.
They are being pushed back, but they're just waiting for that opening pick. They have enough faith, I think, in Ants to be able to eventually deliver for them. He's getting pretty weak at the moment. He needs a bit of a heal, and slowly he's going to just go down. To Saucy in the backlines, there's no peel at all for him. Moth used the immortality field just to defend himself and Violet towards the back, but it doesn't matter because the Shock are going to be able to clean this fight up anyway. They had the advantage in terms of the pick that was generated at the beginning of that fight, and also the fact that Smurf and Choyobin were very solidly planted in that front line. And Shock once again able to reset and slow down the pace once more of the Atlanta Reign's attack. EMP though is going to be huge here from Saucy. It's a massive win condition for them. Not with Infrasight up though. Definitely got to wait that one out.
Yeah, that's going to be buying a bit of time now for the Shock. But Saucy is 2% away from it. The Infrasight fades, and that should be the go time for them to try and make something work here. You can see Saucy getting into position. Probably going to try and prioritize some of the tanks here in the backline. He cleaves off of them. You can see the Amp Matrix immediately is taken out off the back of the EMP, and the Immortality Field goes down shortly afterwards. So the Atlanta Reign making the most of it. Still the Shock want to continue pushing this one in. Gravitic Flux does a lot of damage to Hawk here, but now they're going to have the Supercharger to try and really push the Shock away from them here. Gives them the extra damage necessary. Still, Rascal in the backline has taken out Dogman. Let's see the Gravitic Flux being committed by Hawk. Nothing to cancel it means that he'll get 2 kills, and still on an off angle, but it probably won't be enough. I say that. 2 kills for him. Hawk very, very low. Surely not. Surely not. Yeah.
And that, even though that was a losing fight for the San Francisco Shock and they invested ultimates into it, they forced so many out of the Atlanta Reign. So that's definitely worth it. Oh, Violet going down. That is a little difficult, because what I was going to say is they've reset the momentum from Atlanta. They don't have big ultimates to continue pushing through checkpoint B, and the defensive advantage of the map can now be utilized with no ultimates online. But with the pick onto Violet, that has actually allowed Atlanta to generate some more momentum, some new momentum that is not based on ultimates.
Oh, Moth just popping his head out for a wee moment, and yeah, not going to be able to survive, obviously, that one. 2 picks easily now for the Atlanta Reign, rolling this forward off the back of Edison's Infrasight. The Shock need to respect that a little bit more. Edison is a phenomenal player when he gets going. Yes, Ans might be pretty good, but Edison can also hold his own against him. Infrasight though from Ans will mean that the Atlanta Reign do need to respect that. You have to. Either working around the shields or some other form. And Matrix from Massa will force again the Shock away. Very slow-paced gameplay going on here. They might try and jump on a target or two, but it's difficult for Ans to get any value with the Widowmaker here. There's not many sight lines he can really take, Josh.
EMP available right now as well from Saucy, so this absolutely should be a win for the Atlanta Reign. They can't afford to lose Gator here. They need to invest ultimates. Massa takes down one. Violet's popped his trance, and Saucy still holding the EMP, but the longer you hold it, the more chance you're giving for Ants to hit shots like that. Finally, they commit it. Violet falls weak. They have found the pick on Choyobi as well. And this is surely going to be checkpoint B for the Atlanta Reign, but I was worried for them.
Yeah, Edison honestly just opened up that entire middle section of the map for them then. You think all the way back, I mean, he's just been getting the staggering picks, time and time again. Moth usually being the recipient of the shots, which is unfortunate for him.
Much better.
But Atlanta Reign able to really just breeze through that middle section off the back of Edison's raw individual talent.
Yeah.
I was going to try and do it because it is a bit of a more favorable, I'd say, angle for Ons here. He can take a lot more wider angles, try and catch the Atlanta Reign off guard. But Edison's still searching for a target.
Flux comes out here from Choyobi. Dogman's fallen as well. Raised up in the gravitic flux, and Ants finds a second. Just taking pot shots at this point. Yep. Nobody can contest the angle. As soon as Edison goes down, there's no one to apply pressure to Ants. No one has that long-range capability. Dogman doesn't want to take the ego duels against him. That's always going to be a losing fight for the Zenyatta.
Okay. Infrasight was popped there by Edison, but look at the Shock. The positioning is so far forward here, they don't really want to respect it that much. The hack goes off onto Ans, but no one's going to be able to capitalize. Dogman goes down. Yeah. It might stop
a hack does not stop him shooting bullets into the head of your Zenyatta. I think that hack was intended to go into somebody else there. Maybe the Sigma. I think he was attempting to hack Choyobin so that they could try and push forward a little bit. The Atlanta Reign are essentially just waiting for another EMP here. And there's still so many ults available to Shock.
Jump shot from Ans. Goes for it. Somehow hits the shot onto Edison. God, what an absolute maniac. To try and hit that, especially when Edison was at like a gradient slope. It's not just a simple mouse movement from left to right. You have to try and adjust your entire aim for him being on the staircase, and he still hits the shot whilst in the air. I cannot stress enough how hard that is to hit.
Yeah, that's a mental one. Also perfectly timed with the aggression coming out from the Shock, so Edison would be a little distracted as well, as that supercharger went down from Smurf. He's having to think about whether Edison is, Edison's having to think himself about whether he's positioned accurately enough. Immortality Field comes out there and it just about saves the tanks and supports, but Ants finishes off Massa. And this is Rascal just putting out insane damage from his duplicate form in the off angle. Another gravitic flux. And will Saucy ever get a chance to use this EMP?
He uses it now, but the reaction times comes out from Violet.
Yeah, not
instantly. Well, unable to even get the value he really wanted here. And oh my god, Ants! Stop it! Absolutely filthy. She's getting away with murder now, and it feels like the momentum of the Atlanta Reign is just withered down to almost nothing.
Yeah,
he is
it's
so
been utterly
consistent.
quashed.
So consistent.
What I love about the Shock is they're applying so much pressure to the Atlanta Reign. One of the best ways of playing against a Sombra is to turn up the tempo, put the pressure on your opponents. If Saucy can get this pick, this would actually alleviate a lot of that pressure.
Okay, Ant's got a kill though with the jump shot, and he obviously couldn't align his aim up for Saucy. Saucy backed off, doesn't have an EMP. It's a close-up gravitic flux. The card has moved so far back that the Atlanta Reign are going to be able to force the overtime here.
And Ants is backwards.
Yeah, Ants is back now, and he's got the Infrasight working. But trying to find something. Here's the thing though, Edison very close to one of his own. Choyobin going down, a very winnable fight now for the Atlanta Reign to take this one moving forwards, if they're not careful. No shield just yet. Gator moving forward, using the map to try and work his way around. Gravitic Flux takes away a couple of the kills. The Shock falling short of the mark here. Accretion doing its work. It's all on Ants to try and see if he can hit some impossible shots. He finds one, but not many players left standing. And the card is going to slowly roll in here as they do manage to cap it. And as we were on the escort map, it means that the 5 seconds that the San Francisco Shock ended up getting were really not good for much.
Yeah, that doesn't make a large difference. Both teams having excellent point C defenses that crumbled in the final moments. Atlanta, because they made a large mistake on their defense to overchase and overextend when they thought they had an advantage. But for the Shock, it wasn't so much a mistake on their defense so much as a good play by Saucy to flank around the back and to be able to kill Ants. That alleviates so much of that pressure that the San Francisco Shock were applying. No longer can their forward hold really apply that much pressure onto the Atlanta Reign. Atlanta were able to take the space, and then they had picks that they were able to find onto Choyobin once the Shock backed off and had utilized all of their ultimates.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
The Shock on the defense initially, and we remember when they were first taking this initial defense, they did have to bide their time a little bit, waiting for Ants to get that initial pick-off before they got an opportunity to try and attack
definitely.
here.
I think that this is favored towards Atlanta right now. With a minute on the clock for both teams, and considering that Atlanta like to spawn camp, they are actively fighting the payload within that 1 minute. The Shock are not fighting for payload control within that 1 minute. They're going to allow a lot of free push here, just because that's the way their defensive composition works. So unless the Shock get crazy aggressive, or Atlanta completely whiff their spawn camp, Atlanta should be the favored team right now with only a minute on the clock.
The Shock, the way they're playing is that they're trying to basically pressure Hawk as much as possible, because he's the only one who can really stand up to this cart with the grasp of the shield. If they pump in the damage, he knew where Edison was. Can't find the shot though. Hunting for something. They have to back off around this corner. Atlanta's still pushing this one forward. Halted back, and with the Discord Orb. There's a lot of free push indeed, and the longer this goes without a pick, the more likely it looks like the Atlanta Reign might be running away with it. Edison with 2 shots! The back-to-back headshots. The third, Edison! What a player! Finding the opportunities, opening it up for his team. The overtime will start to tick, but the Atlanta Reign firmly able to push this cart into that initial checkpoint.
What a beautiful series of shots from Edison. That's exactly what we wanted from him. He was actually able to do pretty similar when they were attacking previously as well. Oh, finds Ants. Identified on the flank. Not going to go for that one, but they want to keep this momentum going. If Edison can find a pick, he found Violet last time when they were pushing into point B. That would be beautiful once again. Taking down Violet just as he's getting close to his Transcendence would be enormous here.
Shock don't want to
Saucy, 97% of his EMP and a tiny sliver of health.
And Matrix, and the Hulk getting ate up there by the grass coming through from Choyobin. The Transcendent aggression comes out, and Ants gets the better of his opposition. They found the pickoffs, and that will be that for the push. But what a push it was from the Atlanta Reign. This is a very winnable map now. With their rush compositions, they like to play at those spawn doors, and a minute can easily be just trickled down to absolutely nothing if they get a good hold initially.
They only need to win one fight. You know, they need to spawn camp for a while, but they can slowly lose multiple team fights as long as they take that time off the clock. And then just one crucial team fight when it's into overtime, and they'll have secured this map and drawn us 1-1 heading into the game break. It is so winnable here for the Atlanta Reign, and this is exactly where you would want to play the rush composition. As much as Atlanta Reign might have been criticized fairly in the past for running the rush comp too much on Havana, when it is quite a broad, open map for many of its segments, this is the perfect opportunity. A minute and 5 seconds. This is wonderful stuff. Oh, Edison seems like he was thinking about running the Widowmaker there to challenge Ants as he goes on the flank. Remember that as good as Edison was on his attack on Widowmaker, the San Francisco Shock all they have to do is flank Ants around the side and have him pick off a single player, and Atlanta's spawn camp will fall to pieces. It will slowly fall to pieces. It'll still tick time off the clock, but it will fall to pieces. So a lot of pressure here on Ants to actually hit these shots. Atlanta can't focus attention onto him. He will just be free here. They're just trying to play outside of his sightlines.
And right around the corner, you can see this immediately. Rascal will go down here, but Ans has a bit of space to work with. The question is, can he do anything with it? Because the first team fight is going to be a win now for the Atlanta Reign. So much pressure on Ans to hit these shots.
Yeah, and they're not easy shots either. Atlanta are very smart with how they're playing these line of sights. You can see Dogman just hugging the corner there. And if he falls back, he'll duck underneath the car. Just trying to deny any opportunity for Ants to hit the shot. So much respect given, and rightly so.
They have been forced to the other spawn door here. Gator taking a bunch of damage. The fire strike comes through, but his shield is close to breaking, and it does go down. 10% to the Earth Shadow. He's trying to find something. The ice wall stops him, and Ants on the flank gets taken out there by Edison. Now Choi being forced away. The Earth Shadow drops down, but no value really given. Gator goes down, pulled together. The Shock need to try and clean this up now as we're getting into the overtime scenario, because the Atlanta Reign are moments away from taking this map. Blizzard drop down, but they go for the teleporter just to avoid it. And they do get out a couple of the players, but not enough. The cart will begin to move now in the overtime.
But this is fine. They only need to win one overtime push here. And they were so good as soon as Edison had the barrier available. That Symmetra ultimate was so crucial previously because it gives them so much space for Gator to be able to just swing his hammer and play aggressively in the front lines. A Blizzard is also great at being able to deny space on the card. This should be Atlanta's to win right now.
Supercharger is cut off actually by the Symmetra barrier. The Blizzard from Saucy is there. The Sound Barrier layered on top. They have to try and get some picks. The Gravitic Flux sends them up. Gator very low, but the barrier keeps him alive. Off angles trying to be taken here. Shock surely not going to be trying to win this one out, and they seem to be falling bit by bit. Smurf on the last one standing. Troy just trying to hide behind this barrier. Will not be enough for them. As the overtime goes down, the Atlanta Reign taking map number 2 in this series.
Great performance from Atlanta there. They didn't even need all of the aggressive push that they got. They would have won anyway, just by virtue of the composition that they were playing, because of all the free push that the Shock were forced to give them. So, frankly, Atlanta won that by being able to execute on their offense. To be able to get those 3 checkpoints on Havana is difficult at the best of times, especially against a team as good with the double shield as the San Francisco Shock. But I want to give a lot of credit to Saucy, because that play towards the end of their first push on Havana, where he flanked around the back and he was able to kill Ants, relieving all of that pressure and allowing them to complete checkpoint C, that was the crucial moment to me, because without that play happening, we're looking at the San Francisco Shock being 2-0 up at the game break. As it is, we've got a very competent match on our hands.
We absolutely do, yeah. The Atlanta Reign do not want to be giving up just yet. And we're going to be heading to a game break to hear what our analysts have to say about the match thus far. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be returning with the series soon enough.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome to the game break presented by Cheese It Grooves. It's Reinforced back with the gang. It's Costa and CP in the mix. And I warned you in the pre-show that we might have a very competitive matchup on our hands. And here we are tied 1-1 at the half. And it all started out on Busan. And the Atlanta Reign looking a bit more competitive in the dive mirror than we initially thought here, CP.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good look for the Reign where, I mean, the Reign right now have been all sorts of up and down in recent history, but now they decide, you know what, we're going to put Pokebo back into the lineup, and he looked really, really good on Winston. It was surprising looking at this, and yeah, it was backed up by Edison just having a crazy series here so far, being very effective, but you got to give it up for the front line of the Reign, in particular, Pokebo coming in on Winston. I do think it had its weaknesses. You look at the stage in front of you right now, I don't rate his Orisa quite as well as I would Gators, and I think there were times where the Shock were just able to work around him, rotate around. So the second round didn't go super well, but the rounds that they were able to play, the Winston, you know, it kind of reminded me of Atlanta last year when Pokebo was looking his best, and if Reign can channel this a little bit more when playing dive compositions, you know, freely swap between Pokebo and Gator more than they've been doing, I think it's a very good omen for the Reign going forward.
Yeah, and Costa, adding it to map 2 as well, we saw that the Atlanta Reign played some more brawl composition. Something we had thoughts about, of course, throughout the weekend. But this time it looked quite a little bit better against the San Francisco Shock. What was your reaction to Atlanta Reign's compositions here on Havana?
At first, it was yelling at the screen, very upset. But as the time went on, you started to see the value of it. They had a really good first-point defense, and the issues that they had is when you're playing this brawl style, it feels really hard at some points to really contest Arns. And we saw Arns take over this map at certain points, just having a ridiculous performance right now. But you saw as soon as there was able to be Edison sort of apply some pressure himself on the Widowmaker, or they were playing in a style in which they could force Arns out of position, it started working well for them. So you're starting to see the composition that we questioned so heavily start to work out for them. And it was interesting. And there is a lot of signs of life from Atlanta Reign right now. And I'm really impressed by what I see, because I, for one, was kind of writing Reign off for the rest of this season because it didn't look like they had any life left.
Now talking about the crunch time presented by Cheese It Grooves and the San Francisco Shock. Costa, you picked out one fight in particular here on Havana that you think really demonstrated San Francisco's performance so far this match.
Yeah, here we see Violet uses a trance 3v6, which we sort of highlighted it yesterday. They win fights that they shouldn't win, and this is another one of them. This looked like an awful Transcendence, and it probably should have been, but Arns just comes in, 2 taps both of the supports, and then just gets in a top-tier position and just starts raining down fire. This is a ridiculous solo carry right here by Arns, and sort of the impact that he brings to this team.
Yeah, and
can I just note how
you've
unfair
obviously
that was?
had this conversation, I can imagine, with Jake as well. Like, we've seen so many dominant hit scans. How do you realistically shut down someone like Ans if you're on the opposing end here?
I think there's a point where Widowmaker as a hero is so incredibly strong that if the Widow is playing at the level that Ans is, there's just going to be some fights where you can't cover every angle at every time. And if you're up against a Widow that's hitting every shot, I'm sorry, you're going to be losing some of these fights. And Ons at times right now has been that level of good. And I just feel so bad for Atlanta in that fight where you look at it, you go, he wasted Transcendence. We're good. And then all of a sudden the comms probably are up going, wait, we're not so good. Ons is taking down everyone. And it's just absurdity. But that is the power of Widowmaker when used by someone that is as good as Ons. Pure and simple.
It certainly is. As we're heading into map 3, King's Row, might be some less angles for the Widowmaker. That being said, though, on the side of San Francisco Shock, we are going to King's Row, but no Super. Smurf remains in the mix for the San Francisco Shock squad. What's your initial reaction here, Costa? What do you think the Shock are planning for on map 3?
To me, this screams that they're almost certainly going to play this dive style. They have Rascal out, Striker in, Violet out, Twilight in. I think you're going to see them play the Lucio Baptiste with Twilight on that Baptiste, and you can see Striker almost full-time on that Sombra, and they're going to play that aggressive way. I'm really interested because for the most part, from the Shock, as of late, we've seen Super always coming in to play that Brawl, Reinhardt style of play. So I'm interested to see if they can transition it into the dive.
All right. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for the analysis. And with that, we're heading into our third map of the series, rather, with your commentators. It's Bren and Sideshow.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch, It's a mind crunch. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy, Big Crunch, Big Flavor. And by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Match day, a bit of a body pile. I see this so often from the San Francisco Shock players. I don't know why, Josh. Every time I'm watching like Moth stream or someone stream, every now and then it'll just be a dog pile of players just on top of each other.
Yeah, physical contact breeds, bonds within the game. You're You're making sure that your brethren, both inside and outside the game, I don't know, they're just having fun. You're a grouch.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm saying I just always seem to see it from the Shock players.
Yes, yeah, it is. I mean, famously, we had that interview. Who was the interview with? Where they were sat on, was it Striker? Someone was sat on Striker whilst giving an interview.
Yeah, we were interviewing somebody,
and then
Choyobi? Behind them there was I don't know, just a player that somebody was just sat on.
Player was just
having a nap or something. Yeah.
Maybe they run out of furniture at the San Francisco house, and so they have to use the players, and everyone takes turns being the chair and being the person sat on the chair.
I don't think so. I think they're just very close, you know? They're just, that shows the kind of teamwork that the Shock's got on display. Well, we're going to need to see some of that come through now because they are 1-1 currently against the Atlanta Reign, and they're making some substitutions. As you see, Striker is currently going to be in for Rascal, and are some substitutions, I think, as well. Twilight for Violet. So making some moves across the board here.
Yeah, and interesting really because we're heading into King's Row as well, a little spoiler for what map is coming up here. And so normally the Shock make fairly large-scale substitutions heading into King's Row because they like to run rush compositions. They've been playing a lot of Reinhardt, honestly. And even in this meta, they've played a bunch of it as well. Now, that didn't go so well in their recent match against the Philadelphia Fusion. Atlanta as well making some substitutions as well, bringing in Erster, which I like to see. This guy was, I thought, would be an MVP finalist in 2020 based on his 2019 performance. He's kind of gone missing this year, both figuratively and literally. Hasn't been fielded very much for the Atlanta Reign, but also when he has been fielded, hasn't looked at the same kind of caliber as we expected him to look. So it's an interesting dynamic for both of these teams right now because I don't know what they're going to end up playing. I don't know what compositions both of these teams are going to end up favoring when it comes to King's Row here because they don't have the same players that they have previously fielded.
Yeah, the other day, the Atlanta Reign, I assumed they were going to be playing a bit more of the rush comps, but they actually didn't. They were opting more for some double shield action when it came to King's Row. So the Shock may be thinking they can mirror them, maybe play a bit of dive as well initially. That's always an option for some sections of King's Row. It's not too viable on others. But it is going to be the Shock on the attack first. So they do get their first choice of what time to set, what their win conditions will be, which is always nice. The downside is you don't get to defend first. Defending, I think, usually preferable for most teams.
Yeah, normally I would agree with you. I think that's the case. Erster here on Mei, which I think is a great pick. Fits his hero pool really, really well. Obviously good with King's Row as well, and its classic kind of choke pointy playstyle. A lot of the narrow areas where the wall can find huge value. Erster, probably our best Mei of 2019, and we expected him to be our best Mei of 2020 as well, but he hasn't been fielded too much recently. And the San Francisco Shock are going to start out with what has become kind of the meta composition at the moment. This Ashe and Sombra with the Mercy Ana backline, and Twilight is playing the Ana here instead of Violet. Back to normal.
Yep, back to normal. So the aim of the game is to build up this Nano boost as fast as possible, and they're doing a pretty good job of that. You see Twilight's already up to 40%. And it's just off the back of Smurf just poking his head out every now and then, going for maybe a dive attempt, trying to build up something. Gets chunked down to half HP here. Anne's looking for an off-angle approach as well, see if he can get a headshot or two with a damage boost. That's usually enough damage to try and end something, but see the Shock maybe push forward a little bit too much here as they're getting caught out of position. The body block from Massa. Nicely done, but the translocate comes through and he will get out. But the Atlanta Reign holding this choke point, but it will be only a matter of time before Twilight gets this nano boost.
Yeah, in theory, that should have been a good play. Smurf goes in, takes a bunch of damage, backs off, charges up the nano boost, but I think he got caught by a halt from Gator just as he left, and Edison finished him off, so Smurf ended up dying here. As soon as Smurf gets this nano boost, though, it's going to be game time for the San Francisco Shock. He can wait for Smurf to engage, and then Striker can try and get a hack onto a key target, onto Erster or onto Hawk.
Yep.
They can make this nano.
Nano comes through, back onto Dogman, but the instant wall pushes him back into the corner. Big Bionade on the 2 as well. Smurf's not going to be getting maximum value. He's was hoping for a kill or two, but it ends up being Anne's the first one to fall. Instant resurrect there from Mon. Bring him back up, but Bob is ready and waiting. Edison just holding on to that one. See if there's a moment of weakness for him to unleash it onto the battlefield. The hack comes through, and it is going to connect onto 4 targets of the Atlanta Reign. We'll see if Smurf can get anything done with the Primal Rage. Now it's just trying to make it work, but forced out very, very low. Has to back up around this corner. Supercharger from Gator just to push them away. The Atlanta Reign might be turning into their favor this fight.
They've got Bob to pressure the point here, but the Atlanta Reign have pushed past through the hotel. Found a kill onto Smurf, I believe there was the Halt and then the Evolution. The combination of CC proving to prove too powerful for the Winston. And Atlanta have been pretty dominant here. This at no point has it really seemed difficult for them to stay in control. They had to give up a little bit of space in that previous engagement, but not too much. And the Shock are going to come back in here with the Nano, with Choyobin up on the higher ground. But last time they really struggled to dive, just getting peeled back. And they're losing players early in all of these fights too.
Hands down again. They jumped into the backline.
Much better dive this time from Smurf.
Yeah, much better dive. They have lost a couple of players though, but a res onto Ans as well means the Shock should be able to push this one forward. They've got the player advantage now. Wall trying to lock a couple of these players. Ans gets taken out again on the flank, taking an aggressive approach. One tick now for the Shock as they're if they can get anything else out of it. Players are starting to respawn now for both sides, and now it looks like the Atlanta Reign want to try and go in here with the Amp Matrix. Dogman takes out Moth. No more Resurrect on the field. No more heals, no more damage boost. The Shock might just have to back out of here.
30 seconds remaining.
Gonna get closer in EMP if Striker can get into position. They need to not lose people on the approach as well. Edison's done a good job of picking off early targets.
Oh, the EMP is going to be
but if
huge.
Striker can get into the back line and Twilight can get up.
It's a 5-man.
Follow up on this.
5-man EMP. They get hawked down. Yeah, and it looks like this might just be very doable for them. Now Troy doesn't get DMX. Smurf, the Primal Rage, not finding too many targets.
They haven't got enough.
Shock might be able to turn this one around, but you're right, Josh. They're not really getting what they were looking for. Nano Boost now applied. Smurf going to be trying to chunk them down with the Supercharger. The Atlanta Reign, if they get a couple of picks, they can easily find that this turns in their favor now. Freeze coming up onto the point. Bob's doing so much work on just know-how of it all being healed up, and the San Francisco Shock just about take it right in the nick of time.
That was way too close though for the Shock. They didn't sync up a good team fight there whatsoever. Even that final one was insanely scrappy and could have gone the way of the Atlanta Reign. And Atlanta were pretty good at being able to adjust their position and use the coach gun to deny some of the jumps coming out from Smurf. But also, there just didn't seem to be very much synergy between Striker and Smurf in terms of setting up these dives. And their ult cycling was a little off as well. So these are signs of weaknesses here for the Shock. Now, they don't have anything to play for. Their seed is already locked in, but they're normally a team that tries to dominate their opponents at all times, so I don't really believe that they would be lacking motivation here. It would be an unfortunate smear on their record if they end up going 24-4 over the course of the season instead of 25-3.
The Atlanta Reign with the aggression, Josh. Trying to turn that around.
The
Ice
best.
Just off there by Erster, yeah. It's an even fight. The Shock are slowly getting the better of this. The EMP committed just to try and take down Hawk. They do just that. Go with D-Mech. Dynamite off on the side. Such a scrappy fight between these two teams, honestly. Feels like the Atlanta Reign are getting the slow edge as well as the spawners are trickling in, but Anne's quick work onto Edison and Massa means that he has opened this one up for his team.
That is enormous from Ants to be able to find that pick. The Mercy damage boost onto him as well. Moth providing that pocket. So much trust and faith in this guy to turn things around. Who would have thought that Ants, the rookie player, would become such a star for the San Francisco Shock? After this team lost Sinatra, he's just stepped up 2 meters and 25 away from completion of point B here. Tough territory. Atlanta can still hold, but they've lost so many players early.
Yeah, Smurf's done a fantastic job with the Primal Rage there, forcing the positioning. Now there's going to be the Blizzard, which they're just going to back away from. Choi needs to stay alive here, but he can't get any heals. He's so low. And his healers are just caught out of position. But the Nano Boost now applied over to Smurf, gets one. Let me get it for the second one. The grass will not help you in this scenario, Hawk, because he will fall, and it's going to be the capture. Middle section of King's Row. Normally, San Francisco Shock, you'll find that they have a bit more time to work with than just 1 minute 40, but a little bit of a different scenario this time around. Still finding their foot.
Yeah, obviously running this dive style rather than the rush, which they would normally use on King's Row. This has become the meta after their loss to the Philadelphia Fusion. I think it was Moth that said, we got outplayed because we had a bad read on the meta, so we went back and we adjusted all of our strategies. This is one of them that they've adjusted. Ants with a flank deep into enemy territory.
What?
Okay. I mean, that reminds me of Spider Pie from 2018 when we were talking about NYXL sandbagging at the end of the season. That is
maybe
a very aggressive play from us.
Maybe the approach was, okay, I distract him in the backline, I maybe get a pick, but at least my team can push forward. But the Shock were not in a position to try and capitalize off of any of them being distracted. What a weird approach.
No, they didn't have
man.
any ults online. Yeah. I don't really know. I mean, when you're able to hit shots like Ants does, you have outrageous, inhuman levels of confidence. And so sometimes you just feel like you can go for those kind of plays.
Yeah,
we've seen him pull off truly ridiculous stuff in the past, so clearly the rules work slightly different for people that have insane levels of aim like this.
We see the self-destruct now come through. Striker with one, Ans with the second. The Blizzard will freeze up Twilight, but Moth is going to be there instantly with the Resurrect, and the team is peeling for him so that it doesn't get disjointed. Good work from them. The damage boost will just put in a lot of that extra work, but now we are in the overtime scenario. Shock have an EMP, they've got a nano boost maybe, working against the Atlanta Reigns comp.
Massa with the sound barrier here, and Atlanta Reign have gone to more of a brawly kind of style. Massa is so important at being able to deny this EMP. Where is he? Around the side, great sound barrier, hits all 6 players.
Yeah, Massa's going to be getting great work done with that sound barrier now, but a nano boost applied to Troy Gilbert. Not Smurf this time around, just to try and keep him on the cards, keep that presence. They're rotating these players, but they don't have enough staying power. Not nearly enough as the overtime starts to burn, and well, that's going to be that. The Shock not going to be getting the full capture that they were looking for on King's Row. The Atlanta Reign, what a phenomenal defense from them, and it all started on that first checkpoint.
Yeah, very good defense. They look well practiced. It's a pretty similar performance to Atlanta playing on Havana. They look good. They whittle away the time. They're losing slowly if they are losing team fights. It's fundamentally good play from the Atlanta Reign. The San Francisco Shock look not like their old dominant selves. There's some individual positioning and decision-making errors. There's some ult cycling errors, and coordination seems to be a little off. I don't think that that's necessarily anything that should worry you if you're a Shock fan coming into the playoffs, because we are going to be in a very different meta most likely. But it does show that the Shock have weaknesses. I don't think that they're just messing around in this series. I think this is just my speculation and just my read of the situation, because obviously the Shock don't have, you know, much to play for here, but the Shock, generally speaking, have been a team that likes to win. They are motivated by winning and dominating their opponents. From all reports, they try incredibly hard, even in scrims, to dominate their opponents, because they like this idea of being on top, of causing fear in the hearts of the people that they play against. So yeah, I think these are genuine errors rather than them just not being motivated for the match.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable take, and the Shock are opting for the dive on the defense here. The Atlanta Reigns comp has a ton of staying power, but the Shock are going to be hoping that Striker finds a hack or two on some of these key targets, maybe one of the tanks. But for now, just blocking the line of sight of Ans, making sure he can't do much. They're going to start taking some point pressure here.
That could have been nice.
Yeah, nice bubble timing though. Stops that, but still, Dick has already gained. The Hulk's pull him through to not quite find any icicle on the head. But Ans does get Massa, and that's going to hopefully start to be the turnaround that the Shock were looking for. There's another off angle here, just trying to put his damage in. Somebody needs to try and contest this point here, but they're struggling, Josh. 2 ticks forward to get the Resurrect onto Twilight.
Yeah, but Twilight dying means that nano boost isn't available for them, and they are just trying to delay until the nano is online so that Smurf can contest properly. With it not online, they can't do it, and that is a wonderful play from Gator and Erster. Gator halted Twilight in the high ground, and Erster hit it with a headshot. That's such great coordination from Gator and Erster to find the crucial pick. Once the Ana dies, San Francisco Shock's composition falls to pieces. Unless Ants can just clutch insanely, the whole ult cycle falls once Twilight dies. So that's such a nice coordinated play from Atlanta.
Yeah. Well played from them. 5 minutes is what they've got now on the clock. And you can start to see Shock thinking, okay, how do we win this next one? Well, EMP Nano is up. We can start to rotate those around. But the Atlanta Reign seem ready for everything that's getting chucked at them right now. Completely different team compared to the other day. From top to bottom, definitely. Edison now maybe going for a flank here. It's a 4-man, 5-man EMP. And that's like collapse actually from the Shock. They recognized that something was amiss there when they were going for that flank attempt, and they didn't even use the nano boost actually. They just damage boosted Smurf, and that was what collected a bunch of the kills.
Yeah, good decisive play from the San Francisco Shock. And this is where their composition will be able to cycle these ults. Ans might be able to have a Birdring-esque performance as well here. He was truly outrageous in their recent series. The bomb flanking around, dynamite into the back as well. Huge amounts of damage being pumped out here. And the Shock can just rotate these ultimates quite nicely as well.
The shield, just to block them, means the shield is not there for the front line. And Smurf with his Primal Rage. Yeah, good night, Massa. You're gone, you're out of here. Yeah, Surf trying to dodge around his own bubble shield just to see if he can get out of it, but unfortunately will be falling here. And it seems like that D-Mech, Choi is going to have the self-destruct. Be able to get into the mech here. Ant's trying to get one of these spawn cams, trying to hit the shots, but just finding that he's missing one or two of them. But the Resurrect on Twilight means that they're not going to be down a secondary healer.
And as soon as Smurf comes back into the fight, they have a nano boost to be able to work with as well. So even though in theory Atlanta Reign do win, you know, the payload continues to push slightly, the Shock have ticked a lot of time off the clock there, and they still are in a position where they can fight. That flank, how does he not get the kill? How does Edison miss that?
Tried to summon him, but unfortunately not possible. Still, the ultimates are committed now from the Atlanta Reign, and look at the damage! Edison may have whipped a couple of those shots with the right click, but that's perfectly fine. He's happy to just use his raw aim and mechanical ability to just spearhead through the defense of the San Francisco Shock, and the ults were committed.
Where
there.
Are they?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Choi
the
moving over
ults
to
were
the
committed.
ball.
Choyobin's on the ball now because they wanted to recontest onto checkpoint B. Surely Choyobin will swap back. And now Ans and Moth are just stuck behind. This should be incredible momentum heading into point C for the Atlanta Reign. Shock have made so many errors here on Kings Row. Kings Row is normally a dominant map for the San Francisco Shock.
Yeah.
But they've looked kind of lost, honestly.
This is very unusual for the Shock. But the Atlanta Reign, I don't want to discredit them, they are fired up. They do truly look like a completely different team compared to the other day when they were playing against the Gladiators. It's kind of absurd. EMP comes through, the Shock trying to get the maximum that they can out of it. You can see that Smurf does get the kill there onto Massa, so a nice little setup play for him. Edison just trying to take these shots, 1-2, will not do it. Striker, the spray down from Biuzi will get him. The Atlanta Reign still with a couple of players in this fight. I mean, there's an opportunity here to actually keep pushing this forward, and now that Ans has gone down, yeah, it looks even more probable.
Atlanta have so many ults to work with here. Supercharger available. Even though Smurf is primaled and nanoed, he still doesn't really want to get involved.
Supercharger and Blizzard. Like, you can't even touch the card here. They're just going to roll this forwards, and they're trying their best to stall it, but there's so much damage being put into them here. It's so hard to stand up to anything being chucked at them, and that's it. The Atlanta Reign going to be capping up this map just like that. Question marks in the chat from Gator.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also thinking question mark as well, to be honest. Dogman says, ignore him, Gator stupid, which I do appreciate. But also, I've got the same kind of question mark feeling in my head as well, because the Atlanta Reign have got to be coming into Kings Row thinking, all right, guys, this is tough. San Francisco Shocks, it's one of their best maps. They've got the rush style that they like to play. They'll have definitely been doing some work recently to prep for this Winston style. I've got to get my feeling. I don't know this for a fact. I'd love to hear from the players themselves from the Shock. My feeling is they probably haven't practiced this at all. They looked unpracticed when it came to Kings Row.
Yeah, they did.
And if you've gone from playing rush compositions on Kings Row and you've already locked in your #2 in North America standing, and you know that there's a playoff patch on the horizon where you're not going to be playing this kind of meta, I guess there is no reason really to put that much scrim time into practicing this composition on Kings Row. So maybe they are just very unpracticed, but that was a different Shock. I mean, as much as you say that was a different Atlanta Reign to when they played against the Gladiators, that's a different Shock to what we've seen all season long. I don't think I've ever seen such a weak performance from them on Kings Row.
And I mean, partly because they were shifting out of that comfort zone when it came to the compositions. I mean, real crazy stuff. You can see this replay here as well. This was the final moments. But here's the thing. I mean, no one can touch. The Supercharger was down, the Blizzard, the Amp Matrix, and the wall, just to block them all away. And as soon as Smurf died, who else is going to touch that? No one. Like, the Atlanta Reign had every single tool they had. It was just perfect for pushing that into that final section.
Yeah, I mean, they already made the mistakes on checkpoint B, right? When they had those players behind and they gave up so much space for them. Like, there were a lot of mistakes. They were checkmated once it got to that position towards the end.
Pretty crazy turn of events, the fact that the Atlanta Reign were able to take this now 2-1. But we're going to go to a break, and then when we come back from that, you're going to be finding out alongside us, can the Atlanta Reign do the impossible? Can they upset the San Francisco Shock, or will we be going even further beyond? We'll find out on the other side. Do not go anywhere.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile.
This is it, right on the precipice now for the San Francisco Shock, for them to try and battle back in this series. These are words I didn't think I'd really be uttering, but the Atlanta Reign have elevated their gameplay off the back of yesterday's defeat, and now they are looking stronger than ever, actually. Real makings of a great rivalry between these two teams, because if you think about last year as well during the playoffs, when the Atlanta Reign upset the Shock and knocked them into the lower bracket, that was when the Shock ended up battling back even harder. So we may see a similar sort of rivalry brewing even now, but substitutions being made across the board here, Josh.
Yeah, they've made a bunch of subs here. Pogpog coming back into the lineup as well. And Saucy coming in for Erster as well. I'm interested, honestly, to see if the Atlanta Reign are really able to close out this series. There's a skill set to get ahead in a series, and there's a skill set to close out a series. You know, the Florida Mayhem were talking about this recently as well, that they were really focused at the end of the season on staying focused in the matches to really have that killer instinct and close out the series. The Atlanta Reign are a team that they've never beaten a top team like the San Francisco Shock this season. Yeah, they did it last year in the playoffs. That was great. That was a fantastic result. And it inflated our expectations for them this year. But this year, they've been the classic gatekeeper team. Outside of one notable result, they are 10-10 with only results against the bottom teams in North America. And a win here against the San Francisco Shock would shatter that storyline that has been going on all season long. And I know that's what the Atlanta Reign players want. They hate the idea of being this gatekeeper team. They aspire to be so much more. They're aspiring to meet our expectations of them being a top 5 team at the beginning of this season. So this would go a long way to providing them the confidence that they need moving into playoffs, as well as obviously securing them that 6th place overall in North America and giving them the better seeding heading into the playoffs.
There's a thing for the Atlanta Reign as well, is that the Shock are currently 12-0 on Hanamura. 12-0 this season. I mean,
yeah.
If they were able to do this, if the Atlanta Reign were able to do this against the Shock now, it would be truly remarkable for this team to make such a resounding bounce back after yesterday.
Brent, it's even crazier than that though as well, because not only are the Shock 12-0 this season, but their win record stretches back even further as well. They are just insanely good at Hanamura. It goes and goes and goes. I believe they're like 18-0, with the last time being sometime last year when they lost on Hanamura.
Yeah. The Atlanta Reign, when the going gets rough, they can sometimes falter, but if they are feeling themselves, the beat in their hearts, sometimes they can perform just that extra mile further, and that's what you need. Everyone needs to come online here. Edison, nice little fadeaway shot. You can start to see the shots coming online as well. Troy Hilton trying to deny the high ground away from him, but Ans takes out Massa. The attacking side, they're not going to be able to push this one really much further forward, but the Dynamite to hack onto Ans. Again, a prioritization of these targets, taking a bit of damage, but he's already built up Bob now. Reading into this fight. Bob straight down the middle just to peel them away. The nano boost is applied on the Smurf, and the sleep dart was a miss from Dogman. Smurf's going to be getting away with the kill onto both Hawk as well. Instant res on the Dogman, but I can't say this is looking too winnable right now for Atlanta.
Shock are going to start to get ults online as well and be able to rotate. Smurf in a decent position to be able to utilize his primal, but he just wants to establish positioning and stop the Atlanta Reign from making any further inroads. The hack could be really nice. This is the kind of synergy that was missing a little bit earlier.
Yeah, Massa did manage to get the Valkyrie, and now Moth goes down, so this could start to get opened up. Smurf the primal rage, he's not finding exactly everything he needs. Popo saving his own primal rage, because he knows he doesn't actually need it here, and they could roll forwards into point B, because this is going to be a capture for them. Even if Troy tries to stall it out, the ults are there from the Atlanta Reign. The aim for the Shock now is just to try and force out some of these ults at least. But okay, Smurf, yep, will go down. Self-destruct by Troy just to try and stall it, but it will be an inevitability for the Atlanta Reign.
Atlanta didn't even have to use their big ults. They have a strong chance here of just capturing checkpoint B immediately. They can nano in through the door, they can EMP. They've obviously got to dodge the EMP coming out from Striker, which you could do by peeling very effectively, or you could just turn up the tempo enormously so that you deny Striker even that opportunity to go for it. They can see where he's positioned at the moment. But the snowball potential is real right now for Atlanta.
Popo. Primal Rage is off here, and it's just trying to basically get him away from the rest of his team. Troy, though, taking out Bob on the high ground, not on the point where you normally see him being played. Nano boost applied over to Ans. They've got to try and get something done with it. They hit a shot or two. What is Massa doing there? Trying to go for the res maybe, but just glides into the line of sight of Ans and gets taken out as a result.
I mean, I think he was already dead as well. He got hit by a nano-boosted dynamite, and it did so much damage to him. Dogman seeks the explosive release of that dynamite in order to reset. He doesn't want to be staggered. And the disaster has been averted here for the Shock. That snowball potential has been quashed. And Atlanta Reign's ult economy is reset. Striker as well, still holding on to that EMP. So now, advantage to the Shock, especially when Ants keeps hitting shots like this.
Yeah, it's switched around and it just does it again!
What is going on?
Instant resurrect. Yeah, instant resurrect onto Edison, but taken out just as quickly. And Ants coming close up to the Bob, which is very good at stopping a lot of these pushes in, and Saucy going down. Is this where the Atlanta Reign start crumbling, Josh?
It definitely could be. This is the kind of point in the match where they've struggled before, and also, like you said, Brent, Hanamura is just ridiculous for the Shock. Shock are 18-0 on Hanamura. They haven't lost here since stage 4 of 2018. They haven't lost on Hanamura. So, this is a map they understand absolutely.
You can see the aggressive plays by Striker as well. He's trying to get a solo kill onto some of the supports, but he's just forcing the attention of Atlanta Reign all over the place, splitting them apart, which allows Ans to get these sight lines and maybe a kill or two. The ults are coming up though for Atlanta slowly. Big dynamite again. And they're just buying so much time, down to 2 minutes now.
And Shock have not been forced to use any ults. This has all been based off Ants. Ants now getting immediately hacked and damaged though. Pogba with the nano boost takes him out instantly. And that's the key player for the Shock removed.
Well, Resurrect's going to be used on him.
They just can't hold that position. And now Atlanta have wasted all of their abilities, their cooldowns. And the Shock, they're straight back to full force.
Yeah, and they have ults to use as well. EMP just to really clean up this fight. I don't want to give Atlanta anything, and it feels like the Atlanta Reigns engine is starting to run short. Nice little sleep down to Smurf to stop the nano boosted Winston, but hack as well. Still, Choi will peel for him, staving away some of the damage. Atlanta need to be coming up with some sort of game plan to try and execute and break into this, but against the Shock, when they're so comfortable on this map, it can be quite hard.
I mean, it's got to be around getting an early kill on Ants. I think the plan was good in the previous team fight. Get the hack onto him, see if you can get an individual kill with Saucy and with Pogba diving him. Pogba has actually used his primal here. I'm not even sure where he is or what he's doing.
It's hunting for somebody, but
He's just
really
pushing
around.
Ants out of position. He's using his entire primal to push Ants away from his aggressive position.
Yeah, and the bubble was laid down, but Ans is, okay, well, I just walked to the left a little bit, and now Bob will take out Pogba because he used everything at his disposal to try and stop him. It is just a real protective VIP strategy here from the Shock, but it works because Atlanta Reign end up dictating so many ultimates, so many resources just for Ans that by the time they've finally got him out of position, either by killing him or forcing him back to the rest of his team, they don't have the ults or the cooldowns to take space on this map.
Yeah, and it might be tough to say that the responsibility is on Edison, especially considering that he's always got the angle disadvantage, but if Edison doesn't hit some big shots here, I don't see any way that Atlanta come out with victory, because so far they've just been stuffed.
Popo does not know what to do, and look at that EMP into the back line. They collapse onto it perfectly. 3 targets, along with the Bionade. Nice little collapse there from the Shock, and that should just clinch that round. Not letting the Atlanta Reign get a single tick on checkpoint B.
Yeah,
Dominance.
I mean, that's absolute domination. Pure and simple domination from the Shock. They come off a very sloppy-looking King's Row performance to put up this kind of result on Hanamura and keep their streak alive. It's just a different world from map to map. And it's not like King's Row is normally a bad map for them, which is why I brought up the idea of it being something patch-related and whether or not they've really developed new strats and scrimmed on it very much. But they understand how to play with these compositions on Hanamura. They've always played, well, not always, double shield was often a thing this season on Hanamura, but for a while, the Shock have been comfortable playing Sniper on Hanamura, whether that's an Asher or Widowmaker, and some kind of Winston setup. So they understand how to rotate themselves and rotate positions and utilize the fact that teams are so worried about Ants. That's a good old southpaw.
Yeah, sure. Go for the left hook.
Whap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take out 2 at once.
Yeah, just nice collapse there from the Shock. I think they just recognize how to play Hanamura though as well, because it's a map where you really have to be clean with your execution on point B, because it's so big, it's so massive. To get through the initial choke, you have to commit something, but if you're committing everything, your leap, your ultimates, just to try and take care of a sniper on the other side of the map, and you find that you just get pushed away, you're just left out in the open without really much of a clue. The Shock though on their attack are just clearing every corner. They found Saucy. That's smart gameplay from Smurf. Making sure there's no Sombra waiting behind. Twilight though, okay, overstepping his boundaries a little bit.
I don't really know what Twilight was up to there, but the Resurrect is available for them, so they'll be back in the team fight. They obviously don't have that available if Ants ends up losing this Ash 1v1 against Edison though now. And it really is on Edison here to put up a similar kind of performance. So much responsibility on his shoulders. But that's the world we live in. Edison's got to be putting up huge numbers here to replicate the kind of performance Ants did on defensive Hanamura. Otherwise, the Shock are just going to stroll in.
Nana Boost applied to Twilight, or Twilight applying it now onto Smurf, I should say, which is more than enough. The space has been created. 3 kills. I'm going to get a D-Mech, and this is just quick and easy for the Shock, making it painless.
See, that was really nice coordination from the Shock as well. They realized that Edison was under pressure, didn't have his coach gun available as well, so they dived onto him. There's nothing to stop Smurf diving onto him there. They are able to get an opening pick, and then Smurf syncs up with Striker to be able to get the final 2 kills as well. That's the kind of teamwork and identification of enemy cooldowns that you need to be able to play this comp at the highest level. And it's something that was a bit missing from the Shock when they played that in the first round of Busan and on King's Row. But here, they look like they've really got a good grip on it.
And look at this approach as well, taking this left kind of flank area. This is something that the Atlanta Reign didn't really do that much. It was mainly Ans just holding this down for his team, but he's got the Bob, which he can send straight onto the point, which is going to be adding a bit of presence. Strike with the EMP.
This position from the Shock allows Ans to be in an angle where he can get a lot of point pressure. And his whole team is there to back him up. So a very different approach to the point.
So close. Bob almost solo capped the point up there, Josh. They only need a single tick, remember, and they're still trying to win this out right now. The EMP coming through. Troy Hillman sends in the bomb! 2 kills! And that is going to seal that map up. 2-2, the San Francisco Shock. What a performance from them. I didn't think they were going to be able to still capture that with Ans, but Bob, of course they only have to get a single tick. He got about 32%, and the Atlanta Reign had to commit so many bodies in a panic to the point to try and stop them.
Yeah, what a difference in terms of how both teams approach checkpoint B, though.
Yeah.
Point B, there was so many opportunities for Ants to land shots and to be able to get his Bob onto the point, whereas when you saw Edison attacking, he was just stuck in top right because his team didn't escort him to the best positions possible. And that's just Shock's understanding of Hanamura. They go up to 19-0. They keep that streak going. This is looking like some runaway playing on Numbani kind of stuff out here. That's the level of this streak that the Shock are collecting on Hanamura.
Okay. Well, that is going to be doing it for now, but after the break, obviously, going to that 5th and final map. So the series is going to start concluding before your very eyes. You got enough time to get a drink, but by the time you come back, the series will be progressing. Don't go anywhere.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Could not have had a more close series thus far between the San Francisco Shock and the Atlanta Reign, and there can only be one victor at the end of the day. The Atlanta Reign playing for their seeding hopes and dreams to get that 6th seed. Obviously makes it a lot more feasible if they beat the San Francisco Shock, whereas the Shock largely locked in, but playing for that pride, that domination aspect that they always go for when they play against what they perceive to be weaker teams. But the Atlanta Reign have not been quite so easy.
No, it certainly hasn't. I mean, the Shock haven't looked like the same dominant Shock that we've seen so far this season. Obviously, there's going to be questions after this about, you know, how much scrim time they had, whether they're focused on the playoff patch, these kind of things. Yeah. They're all very reasonable questions to ask, and it's only really the players and the coaching staff that will be able to know. From the outside, though, I would have expected the Shock to come in and try to crush the Atlanta Reign, and that hasn't happened. Atlanta have done a great job at maintaining steady in this series. Yeah, they got crushed on Hanamura, but they had chances at winning map 1, and they won map 2 and 3 fairly comfortably. So I think that Atlanta here have their best opportunity all season long to get a win against a top-level opponent. They have struggled against that kind of measurement system all season long. They had 10 and 10. The middle of the pack, the absolute most basic team you could ask for. They don't reach any higher, they beat everybody underneath them. This could be their opportunity to flip the script right here on Ilios, prove the narrative of the entire season wrong, and come out with a victory against arguably the team to beat in North America. And they would secure themselves the number 6th spot in North America, get themselves first pick in the round of playoffs as well, or first pick out of those tier 2 teams. It would all be a wonderful finish to the season, a great momentum moving into the playoffs if Atlanta are able to win this map.
3, 2, 1.
It's all coming down to this. The doors are opening, the teams are rolling out, and the stage is set for map 5 here. And it is going to be the Battle of the Widowmakers, of course, on Ilios Ruins. How could it not be? I think Edison's got to be worried a little bit as well against who he's going up against, but he's been putting up some good performances against Ans, so definitely nothing that he can't step up to. Meanwhile, he has a Bionate there immediately from the Atlanta Reign. You see Dogman landed that onto both the tanks, which is going to force them back, but for now it's a patient game of waiting.
San Francisco Shock are using the Lucio as well here, which is interesting because I don't think you get too much value out of it, but Ants, they're saying he doesn't need the Widow boost, the Widow pocket and the damage boost. Moth the first casualty to Edison here. As Smoke and Choyobin are under a little more pressure without that additional healing.
This has happened a lot, Moth going down usually in the first of these fights, and it's largely down to Edison actually taking these sight lines. I don't think it's a factor of Moth playing poorly. I think it's just the fact that Edison doesn't really take the Widowmaker 1v1 unless he has to. He wants to be prioritizing a lot of his damage into some of the individual members, the squishier members of San Francisco Shock, to try and take them out early. It's smart target prioritization from the Atlanta Reign, less so than Moth playing bad.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I mean, you could question his Lucio is what I was gonna say there, question the pick, but Edison just getting the kill over Ants. What a turnaround compared to Hanamura. Obviously better angles when you're in the defending position over the point, but he's still hitting some nasty stuff. Moth into the backlines. He's going to try and challenge him here, and Massa comes along to be able to finish him off. Main support on main support action as Massa in the Valkyrie form. That's wonderful to see.
Yes, and Edison as well, getting that early pick. Another downside of Moth, so he's made the switch now over to the Mercy. What they were lacking was a Resurrect as well. If Ans did lose that Widowmaker duel, he can't get back in instantly. He can't get resurrected up.
Definitely. I mean, that's arguably the most important part of it as well, isn't it? And even though this series at times has looked like an Ants frag movie, it's all Edison on the Ruins so far. 80%, there we go. That's the reply we were looking for.
Yeah, just takes the jump shot. And you can look at this pressure in the back line. Primal Rage committed just for Moth to try and take him out. Edison still in the fight, but look at him flicking away.
Alley-oop!
Yep, straight away, knocking them up, taking them down. And still being pressured, it is just immense. The Atlanta Reign need to keep applying this to Ans, but the Shock are perfect at playing off the back of it. So much space being made because the tanks are not there to protect their backline.
Great play from Smurf there with his Primal Rage. I think he got slightly more work done than Popo did. Both Winstons tried to use it at the same time. What a shot again! These Widowmakers are turning up, especially Edison on Ruins. Rez is now there, now that Moth has moved over to the Mercy. See if he can pull it off again.
I'm out of here.
The Infrasight is going to stop Saucy from taking any unconventional approaches into trying to set up that EMP. Holding on. The Lazarene realize they can't push into this, not while this is up and Edison isn't close to his. So sometimes you can trade out the Infrasights and you're okay, but it's going to be an aggressive approach from the Shock here. Nano Boost, EMP, all committed to try and help Smurf build up his own Primal Rage for the next fight. This kind of aggression is what you need. He sends us back to Edison there just so he doesn't get headshot. In case you're wondering why he turned away so quickly.
And Shock maintain control of the point, but lose that large ultimate advantage that they had. Edison's going to get close to Infrasight, so he's going to have the advantage over Anson head-to-head, and Saucy's got EMP. This should be good here for the Atlanta Reign to turn things around. They've even got the Nano to play with, too.
Yeah. I mean, every tool at their disposal. Valkyrie going to be committed, EMP as well. If they get a pick off, that's what they're looking for. But Choi with a self-destruct. Healing for his team. Edison, though, answers immediately. The Twilight going down, but Dogman follows suit. So both teams be losing some crucial players. Off resurrecting, and Edison searching for an opportunity to see if he can get a kill or two. Gets 1 HP, no, not enough. It was hacked up. Striker hacked up the health crack and allowed Smurf to chase down Edison before he could get healed. The San Francisco Shock making some very intelligent moves around the map. And now, almost up to 90% with an EMP of their own.
Yeah, amazing peel coming out from the Shock there. That's the stuff that they're kind of known for, taking those situations where they're disadvantaged and turning them on their head. And now the Atlanta Reign, they're the team that is really struggling. Shock have got everything and another headshot.
No.
This time, Ants.
Yep, Ants just having a field day here. His opposition taking the top left approach. He has to just try and avoid this duel, but Ants, wants to take it. Just the jump shots into jump shots, but as the overtime goes down, I mean, Ants is fully confident in his own abilities, and that is going to be round number 1 going away to San Francisco Shock. What a turnaround.
Yeah. Although it was all Edison at the beginning of Ilios Ruins, Ants certainly came back into that, but I don't necessarily feel that that round was defined by the Widowmaker play. As much as the Widowmakers had crazy moments in it, it comes down to me, Atlanta just failed to retake. As soon as Shock took control of the point, Atlanta had some big ultimate advantages to work with, but the EMP didn't really find too much. They lost Dogman as well when they tried to attack. Their backline was left a little open while their frontline didn't get too much value, and it all just fell to pieces. So I'm hoping that this isn't the crumble. We've seen it before for the Atlanta Reign. When they get into winning positions against good top teams, but they let those opportunities slip through their fingers. They can't allow this to happen again. This match means a lot to them.
The Shock taking a close left approach here, and yeah, the Atlanta Reign, you're right, Josh, they can't let it slip through their fingers. They need this win pretty desperately now. Pogpo taking the leap in, Smurf hacked up, which means they could try and chunk him down, and they do that. He died behind the, with the friendlies there to try and peel for him, so the Resurrect comes through again, so Smurf back in the fight, but look at this collapse onto Ans again. A little bit harder when you're in the well section of Ilios to try and get those line of sight shots. It's not like Ruins, which is going to favor Ans most of the time. The Atlanta Reign taking full advantage of that, the fact that they're collapsing onto the right targets. Still, an early nano boost now from Twilight. Yep, invested into Smurf, and Smurf is close to his own Primal Rage. Very, very low. Might get healed up. Primal Rage comes up just as the hack fails, or fades away, and look at this. Right in the corner, Massa will be gone. Hacked up, so he needs to be careful, but Dogman did not know what came bouncing around the corner here. Smurf getting so much done on the Winston, and his team just trying to capitalize off of it.
There was an EMP used there as well from Striker though, but there was nobody helping Smurf. There again, so uncoordinated the Shock compared to their normal performance. The individual stuff is there. Smurf comes out with magic, but the rest of the Shock, there's no follow-up. There's no coordination. They're not following on Smurf's space that he's created. The EMP's bad. It all falls away.
Saucy ends up using his EMP, but it only connects onto Smurf. So mistakes being made from both of these sides. Choi ends up resetting there as he fell out of the mech. And that will mean that the Shock are like, okay, we have to back off here. Can't give this up anymore.
really weak, and that's going to gift 30% ultimate charge to Twilight, just healing up his Winston player there. So Twilight's going to be able to catch up to Dogman essentially when it comes to this Nano, which is going to give them an advantage in the next fight. Hack onto Hawk is brutal as well.
Yeah, that's such a fantastic hack. What a great target to hit, and Pokpo goes down as well as he tried to leap to the high ground to avoid a lot of the damage coming his way. Dynamite off to the side, Massa, annoying Moth, yep, right in his face, and the Dynamite damage will tick down onto Dogman and will take him out. So the Shock, right when they needed it, are going to be able to flip this point over.
Yeah.
But it is one fight territory for the Atlanta Reign.
A good individual play from Striker and good communication as well, because the follow-up was right there. The D-Mech on Hawk was instant. And that allowed them to take the point and chain a couple of kills together. And they only invested the Valkyrie, basically. So Shock now can cycle their ultimates and try and stay in control. This is where Atlanta Reign fell to pieces on Ruins. The recontest, pushing back in against the Shock.
Putting in a lot of work here with the EMP layered on top, along with the Nano, now with the Primal Rage. He's got to try and turn it because the Atlanta Reign have found so many picks. Lead comes through from Smurf, finding 2, but is it going to be enough? It really doesn't seem like it now. Pokpo holding on to his own Primal Range. The flip comes through with 96%, and Pokpo just trying to basically check for Striker. Striker goes down immediately. Moth moving into the fray, but hacked up. The sitting duck once again. And the Primal Rage just to knock the players of San Francisco Shock off. Unless Ants gets so many picks, and he won't. He goes down, the hack. The EMP committed onto Smurf means that he won't be standing much longer. This looks like it should be round now for the Atlanta Reign.
It certainly does, and a clinical execution of that retake from Atlanta. Great work. Where they failed in round 1, they exceed in round 2. Striker went for an EMP, but Dogman was right there with the reaction nano boost to be able to catch Pokpo, keep him alive, and chain that fight. I think Striker was the first player that ended up dying as well. Didn't allow his tanks to engage first. He just went out ahead alone without the support of the rest of his team. And it all comes down to this, Bren. Will Atlanta Reign be able to lock up that 6th seed? The Gladiators are staring at this final round, hoping to God that the Shock are able to come through with the expected result and win this series and set them up to steal the 6th seed away in our battle for LA later on with Mitch and Matt casting it. But Atlanta, they're getting ready to do the unthinkable. I did not think that there was any chance, realistically, that Atlanta would come out with a victory here today. But they've been playing pretty well, and the Shock have made a lot of errors.
Yes, they have. The Atlanta Reign victory is within their grasp here. But Saucy hacked up. What a target to hack. The dive is perfect from the Shock and adds to 2 kills. And this is a dangerous scene. When the Shock are feeling themselves, when they are put into a corner, you often find that they fight back twice as hard. And
Ants with 5 kills in that fight, I think. That's absurd. Ridiculous. He hits the first 2, just really clean headshots, dynamite kill, and then finishes off Edison. Beautiful stuff.
Now he's up to 70% of his bob as well. 72% for the Nano for Twilight because of the damage they took and survived. Bionade onto Pokpo again, and the Atlanta Reign need to find it in.
90% of his ult.
Has to be a neutral fight, has to be a hack or something to dive on. He's got the bob already, the damage pumped in, and why not just use it? Yep, send it in. That's going to be causing a bit of mayhem. Pandemonium in the backline now for the Atlanta Reign. Awkward D-mech'd. Why does it feel, Josh, like it's just the encroaching darkness? The San Francisco Shock are just so dominant in this position when they get ahead a little bit like this.
It does. It feels inexorable that the San Francisco Shock will win because we've seen it happen so many times before. But this isn't the same Shock we've seen in the past. Nevertheless, Ants is definitely the same Ants. He is hitting everything right now.
Yeah, Massive did get that resurrect up, but Pokpo's trying to basically take anything out he can onto Ants. Tried to maybe... Coach got off the side of the map! Oh my god, Ants just outplaying everybody to sleep as well on the Saucy. Massa trying to pistol him down, but it won't be enough now. The Shock with 70% and counting. This is the first round in this map 5 that they've actually managed to get that first capture. And they've warmed up. They're on fire. Another bob for Ans, an EMP, a self-destructor Valkyrie. Everything they could need to win this next team fight.
It seems insurmountable for Atlanta to be able to take this. The EMP used early on, it only catches Pokepo. He has a primal rage, but nobody else to be able to heal him or peel for him at all.
That's so smart. They saw what Pokepo was. They knew he had the primal rage. The EMP just to deal with him almost immediately. Hawk will be next. The self-destruct will not get any value, and that is that. The San Francisco Shock, and they're spamming the question marks after Gator did it to him.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's one last cruel twist of fate to finish the regular season for the Atlanta Reign. One glimmer of hope ripped away from them in the final round of Map 5. And in some sense, a summary of their season so far. That they look like they can get close against the elite teams at times. Yeah. And they can never close it out. That was an absurd performance from Ants, dragging the San Francisco Shock, kicking and screaming to a victory there. And I almost feel bad that they would even spam the question marks towards the end, because the Shock can't be feeling happy about how close that match was anyway. They should never have let it get that close. But a final match of the regular season and a final win for the San Francisco Shock. They do end up finishing 25-3. It's a dominant record and a dominant season, but not really a dominant finish to the regular season for the San Francisco Shock.
Yeah. It's a different scenario, though, of course, because we're heading into a different patch, but the Shock will be walking away with the win here in that Map 5 scenario. And I mean, you said it, Josh, it kind of mirrors the Atlanta Reign season overall. Never quite able to scratch the surface of that top level where the teams reside, like the Shock, like Philly. They've always just kind of just been barely keeping their head above the water when it comes to that sort of Tier 1 section. And it's showcased here. The Shock walking away with that win. Wasn't clean at times, but they do end up getting away with it and playing spoiler to the Atlanta Reign. So wonderful stuff from them.
Yeah, a good performance overall. I think Atlanta Reign have definitely got things that they can build on in the playoffs, right? This is a team that has signs that they're starting to click together. Edison with some good individual performances, the tank line working fairly well, pretty flexible as well how they're utilizing their tank line. Again, same kind of situation to Paris Eternal, where they like to sub out Gator and Pokepo depending on the heroes that are being played, but a little more flexible, I think. They are still capable of playing each other's roles more so than Paris have showcased us so far. So there are definitely signs of life for Atlanta Reign. If you're an Atlanta fan, you can come away feeling pretty happy about this game moving forward into the playoffs. You're just waiting for this team to click, and there are still signs of life for sure. They just struggle so much at closing out these series.
A little bit, yeah, just not quite there yet. But our player of the match, presented by Xfinity, of course, is going to be Ants. We've been singing his praises all day long, and why not? This guy honestly also set records. He got the most final blows in this match in any regular season game, with 90 final blows across the board.
Monstrous.
An absolutely ridiculous performance, wasn't it? And I mean, you could just literally take footage from any single map that was played, and you'll find that Ants will just pop off and have these individualistic moments like this. This here, when the boop away and just to adjust your aim. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And Ants on that final round was a terror. There was nothing that they could do. Ants single-handedly won them that final round. And there were a lot of mistakes from the Shock today. A lot of mistakes in terms of their team synergy, their coordination, individual plays. Ants was spectacular the whole day through. He had one moment on King's Row where he flanked on point C and we were wondering what he was doing, but I'll give him a pass on that, because when you're hitting shots like this, when you're racking up 20 limbs per 10 minutes and 13 final blows per 10, go for those kind of plays, because you're certainly on fire. You're hitting them.
Yeah, what an absolute phenomenal player. So many people as well with kind of minimalistic expectations, I suppose, of Ants as a player coming into this season, because again, a rookie, not much was known about him. They knew that he was we all knew he was a very proficient Widowmaker hit scan player, but the fact that he's been able to play the McCree, the Ashe, alongside the Widowmaker as well, and just play all of those roles in a team environment at the very highest level in the world is no small task. So a real star, rookie talent, potential rookie of the year as well.
Yes, I definitely agree, and I think that's a good point that you bring up as well. The Rookie of the Year awards still going on, so it's very possible that this guy could be a winner of the Rookie of the Year award in 2020.
Yeah.
I think there are other incredibly strong candidates, people like Alarm and Lee Jae-gon. People talk about Lip and Krong as well, but Answer's definitely got to be in the conversation because his performance has not just been confined to Widowmaker. He's also had monstrous games on Ashe and McCree and some great games on Sombra and Tracer as well, although less because he's just been so fantastic on long-range hitscan. This guy's got to be in the conversation for sure, and he's basically come straight out of rank to the elite level.
Well, it's time for the interview now with Smurf, so please take it away, Caster.
Yes, thank you very much, Bren. I am here with Smurf and I to translate for me. So that was a match. That was a lot closer than everyone expected. Were you expecting such a competitive match from the Atlanta Reign?
네, 오늘 경기 정말로 치열한 경기가 되었는데요. 이렇게 5세트까지 가실 줄 예상하고 계셨나요?
5세트는 솔직히 예상은 못했었고 그냥 저희가 이제 연습도 잘 해왔고 저희가 하던 대로 하면 잘 될 줄 알았는데 이렇게 길게 갈 줄은 몰랐어요.
To be honest, I didn't really expect that we would go through the map 5 because during the script, we've been showing a good result during the practice, and so that's the reason why we did not expect that this kind of close match.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think many did, but it was a good match nonetheless. So this match had no impact on the regular season standings. Did they come in with full force to try and win this match, or are they looking more ahead to the playoffs right now?
지금 경기의 결과에 따라서 리그의 시드권 같은 것이 이제 저희가 이제 두 번째 시드를 얻었기 때문에 순위에 반영되지 않는 경기였는데요. 그래도 어떠한 동기부여가 플레이오프를 위해서 어떠한 동기부여가 되나요?
이게 저번에 필라델피아 퓨전한테 지고 NA 1시드 뺏긴 건 좀 아쉬운데 저희는 이제 이 경기로도 계속 동기부여를 기세를 타고 가서 플레이오프에서 계속 이길 수 있다는 마인드로 가져갈 수 있기 때문에 열심히 했던 것 같아요.
Yeah, despite we lost against Philadelphia Fusion after Count-Up Cup, and we lost the first seed standing. But however, throughout the result and throughout that lesson, we were able to get the full motivation now once again.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's looked like that in the last couple of matches. So does this give you more drive going into the playoffs to beat the Philadelphia Fusion? Because there's been a rivalry. Is this just even more that you want to get number one?
저희 전까지의 이러한 필라델피아에서 졌잖아요. 필라델피아 매치에서 이러한 이유들이 저희 필라델피아 퓨전과의 약간 라이벌 형성 같은 거나 아니면은 필라델피아 퓨전에 대한 복수 같은 것이 동기부여가 많이 되나요?
네, 솔직히 이제 플레이오프에서 필라델피아를 한 번 더 만난다면 저희는 정말 자신 있게 할 수 있고 그냥 꼭 한번 만나보고 싶어요.
Yes, for sure. And to be honest, our team is ready to win against Philadelphia Fusion if you meet in the playoff season. So we're pretty much confident.
That's what we're all excited for. We all want to see that rematch. Okay, congratulations on the win and good luck in the playoffs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, stick around. We have the Battle for the LA right around the corner.